Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope. All right, Brad, here we are, episode 60 of the GLP. That's the Glum Lot Podcast.
Man,
yeah, I'm going to start calling it the GLP.
Yeah,
it's the GLP zone. So, if you're a listener, just do all the things we ask you to do.
Yes, do it all.
I don't even have to repeat it at this point. Except to say glumlotpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And subscribe to the Facebook page.
And smash that like button. And, wait a minute, now let's repeat everything.
Yeah.
So, today I'd like to speak a little bit about the suggestions. These are suggestions.
I like this when we were talking right before this, sometimes I say, But anyways, we were looking for something to bring up without trying to repeat ourselves too much. But this one, I like this because it is just suggestions.
It really is, yeah.
And, we can't sit and say, you need to do this just like we did. And I did that kind of on purpose. You do this, you do that.
Right.
Because what do, Mark, when somebody says, you need to do this?
Turn it right off.
Yeah, that's right.
If when I hear a message at a meeting and somebody says you, I'm like, to me it's cringy. I'm like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You got to say I or my. My
That's
experience
a big leadership
is that.
principle too, right?
Yeah, right. People don't like to be told what to do. Now, you will hear in the rooms, especially from old-timers, that there are suggestions, but there are a lot of damn well betters.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And, one of those damn well betters is you damn well better go to meetings. You damn well better get a sponsor, those kinds of things. But, what I always try to say is, my take on this is I would suggest you look for a sponsor because it's literally impossible to do this without a sponsor.
Yeah, you need the Sherpa.
Yeah. And also, I would suggest, if you want your life to change, that I would suggest you start working the steps.
Right.
So, those
and
are
I
all...
would suggest, knowing
because
me, I'm not done. You should be reading the big book with somebody, too.
Okay.
Right?
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what we do, though.
I can't even tell you how excited I am for that.
Here's my take
Knowing
on it.
who you are and your brain capacity, I cannot wait to go through that with you.
Here's my take on it. I decided when I first came into AA that I was going to wait 35 years to read the big book with somebody. So that day's arrived, and here I am.
But I will say this, I know how you go about doing this program, and it was a suggestion, right? Read the big book. But I do know how you did it. You go through the 12 and 12, and I think that's just fine. You have a good handle on the program. But there's just the nuances in the big book that I think you'll really enjoy.
No, I think I will, too. Yeah. And I've read the big book, and I've read parts of it over and over
with
and over.
Somebody. Yeah.
But by myself.
Yeah.
And I've listened to the big book on audio.
Yeah.
That doesn't count as reading it with somebody.
Nope.
Because you don't get the feedback.
Yeah.
But I think the discussion and the feedback and, like you say, other people's take on things can show me something that I'm missing.
Right.
So that could be hugely important for me.
Based on my experience, my suggestion is, right?
Right. So back to the suggestion thing real quick. Like you said, we are an obstinate people, us alcoholics. And if somebody says, you need to go to this place and be there at this time.
How about this one? You need to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go opposite.
I had a guy early on who I had a sponsor, but he was a good guy, and I knew his sponsor. And he goes, well, you could probably use all help you could get. And I said, yeah, I can. He goes, you know what? You call me every day.
Yeah.
Call me every day. Can you do that? And I was honest with him. I said, no. I cannot. I said, I will not call you every day. A lot of that was lack of humility on my part.
Sure.
But still, it's just like if somebody tells you to do something as an alkie.
Not with our egos.
Yeah, we're bound to say no.
We already know it all. What are you talking about?
I know, it's tough. But if somebody suggests something or shares something with you, without even suggesting you do the same thing,
Yeah.
you might say, hey, that worked for this guy. I'm
That's
gonna
right.
I'm gonna rip that off
right.
and do it. See if
Because
it
we
works for
do
me.
know this. If something has something we want, we're going to want it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so,
Right. We're gonna try to do the same things they do.
right.
As long as they don't tell us to.
Don't
So.
tell us how.
But anyway, we have a great guest today, and I've known her for a while, and her message is always fantastic. She does a lot of work with a lot of women. She's helped a lot of people, and I can't wait to hear her story. So let's welcome Kelsey.
Kelsey.
Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast, Kelsey.
Kelsey, hi.
Hi.
Hey, so we're glad to have you here, and we'd like to start with your sobriety date.
My sobriety date is August 7th, 2013.
That's fresh. August
fresh.
7th. Yeah, just 11 years now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you pick up a chip?
I haven't yet. I pick it up at my home group at the end of the month.
What is your home group?
Young at Heart.
Okay,
Monday night,
nice,
7:30.
You young people, I swear to God.
We have lots of fun.
Snap.
Oh, yeah.
So we'd like to start at the beginning, your first experience with alcohol and or drugs.
And we mean all the details, like how you
Yes.
felt,
Yeah.
what it did for you.
How
Yeah.
old were you? How old were you, young lady?
Well, let's see. The first time I ever drank, I was 12 or 13.
Okay.
That was the first time I took a drink. But I grew up like in an alcoholic home, so I was around it a lot. I went to a lot of parties. We had parties at our house. I went to bonfires. Thought it was like super normal. Like I didn't know.
More rural area. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
it doesn't.
know.
It's what everybody does. Yeah.
So I was just like, oh yeah, that's just what you do. Like,
Yeah.
you
Coming
drink.
of age.
Yeah. So I remember the first time I drank, I I had like one of like the smaller bottles of like SoCo, and I didn't know how to drink. Like I
Of
didn't
course not.
realize that you just like take a shot and like take some time, or most people
Yeah.
do. I thought someone gave me the bottle, and I literally thought like, oh yeah, you chug it,
Just drink it like
the
a soda.
whole thing, right?
Oh,
Like that's what you're
shit.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I literally chugged almost the whole entire thing, and then chased it with like Pepsi. And literally not even 15 minutes later, I was completely blacked out and I don't remember anything.
Oh,
I
shit.
woke up in between my mom and my dad with puke down the front of my shirt.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
our little girl.
Yeah, yeah. So
Did you enjoy before that?
Well,
Before
she
you
said
black out,
15
did you
minutes.
enjoy the feeling?
like what I remember of it, yes. I do. Like I remember the first time that I drank, I remember like, so like the reason I did it is because like I wanted to be a part of and seem like cool.
Yeah.
Because the person who brought it up was like a boy I liked, right?
Oh,
So when
here
he's
we
like,
go
"Did
with
you
us
drink?"
guys again.
Yeah. Did you drink before? And I went, "Oh yeah." He's like, "You smoked before?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Oh,
I've done
shit,
that."
yeah.
You know what I mean? Never done any of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was more like to impress, right? And then I remember after, like feeling buzzed and enjoying it and feeling like so like growing up, I really felt like I didn't like belong or fit in, and I felt like I was constantly judging myself. Like in hindsight, I see that, not you know,
sure.
then I didn't notice it. But yeah, so I just felt like I was able to like let loose, and I could just like be myself, and it was like everything was fine, you know.
Yeah, it's very relaxing when you, especially at that age, when you are always have the feeling of a little bit of anxiety. This like anxiety coming from somewhere you don't know it, and because you feel like you don't fit any of, you're not comfortable in your own skin.
Hormones are everywhere.
And you take that drink, and all the tightened up nerve endings just let loose, and you kind of just. It's like a big, comfortable chair.
Yep.
I remember that just going, holy shit, man. I
Yep.
love this. I'm
Yep.
doing this from now on.
Oh, that's how it was. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the next day. And of course, I mean, I was like 12 or 13, so like I don't even really remember feeling sick the next day or anything.
Right.
I remember I was like felt guilty because my parents knew, so I was like
Oh,
trying to
sure,
hide from them.
Sure. Because we're still kids, but yet we're trying to be adults, but we're still kids.
Think we know everything.
Yeah, right.
I thought I knew everything.
Did they come down hard on you for that or no?
Not too bad. I mean, like my mom yelled at me. My dad definitely was more of like the talker, like sit down and have a conversation. And we had a conversation. Don't really remember what that conversation was, but I know we had one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't like I was grounded. I was grounded a lot when I was a teenager, like all the time, because I'd sneak out, I'd do all the things. So yeah.
All the things.
So after that first experience, did you have another experience soon after? Or
Well, yeah, so that's what the next day I woke up. I remember literally being like, I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah.
And like that
Fall in love,
weekend,
man.
that weekend I think was the first time like I snuck out. Again, my parents were drinkers, so they were out drinking all weekend. By the time I was 12 or 13, they'd like leave me home by myself. So I could just go do what I wanted or have people over and just have them gone by a certain time because I knew when they would get home, you know?
Yeah.
but
So you're
yeah.
chasing it at this point. And the people you're probably hanging with are too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's not an abnormal thing. I'm just a kid being a kid.
And you're able to meet more people because of it, too.
Yeah, and I definitely, like I said, because I felt not like a part of, when I drank, I felt like the life of the party, and I felt like everyone liked me, and I could be myself. I thought it was so funny and all these things, but I also...
Accepted.
Yes, but I also was like, that's the first time I drank, that's how I drank. I chugged it. Again, that's how I continued to drink. Like, I never drank to have like a sip or just have a beer.
Right. You
it
drank
was
for
all,
effect,
yes.
right? Yes,
yeah,
I did
like it
too.
talks about, you know, so.
Drink it for effect. Yeah. So as you're doing this, do you start doing more of it and more of it and more of it, and it kind of becomes your lifestyle as a teen?
Like through high school and everything.
Yeah, I mean, definitely towards the end of my high school career, it was definitely like the weekend, sneak out, drink, weekdays, like smoke weed, do whatever, and then towards like 10th or 11th grade, I want to say, probably 11th, that's when it became more of like a habitual thing. It wasn't every day at that point, but it definitely was like at any time I could get out, that's what me and my friends would do. Is like if we're going to like ride around or go hang out, like it used to just be smoke weed, and then it turned into, okay, let's go get a bottle.
Yep.
And then it was just kind of...
So whatever opportunity presented itself, you seized it. Yep.
Yep.
Did this affect your school at all?
Oh, yeah. Big time. I mean, I was never like the best student. I didn't really care about school.
Right.
But I was an athlete, and I was in a lot of sports. I did like cross country, basketball, softball. And at this point, I was like the best on my team for cross country until about... I don't know, till I was like 13. I want to say like 13, 14. And then I slowly start falling back because I also start smoking cigarettes. You know what I mean? Just start doing all that.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that'll kill you.
Yeah. So then I start dropping back from first to second to third to fourth, you know.
Pretty soon you're like, I'm not going to...
Yeah, then I was like, I'm going to...
Until you were drinking a fifth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you graduate from high school, though. Okay, right? You go on to college?
No. So by time I get to graduation in school, I am like drinking at school. Like sneaking off from school, skipping school, again, like drinking more, and then like other substances come into play. I get introduced. Honestly, don't even know what the first pill I was that I took, but I took something.
Were all your normal friends starting to like slip away?
No.
Oh, they were all in it for it.
We all drank like that. They didn't do like the other substances. They didn't start that.
Yeah.
But I got into a relationship. But even before I got into this relationship, like my sister had broken her leg and she had some sort of meds. And so again, I'm like, I don't even know how old at this point, 14 or something, 15. Right, it's the booze and the weed. And I remember I would scavenge the house to try to find things to get high from.
Yeah.
Or things that I could like somehow find money. Maybe my mom had money hidden somewhere and I could take it to get something. So by the time this came, my sister broke her leg, so I took one of her pills.
Baby.
Yep. And then that was it. Again, it was like I like fell in love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like laid in
What
bed.
was it? Do you know what it was?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember what it said on
Had
the
to
bottle.
be narcotic.
Yeah,
Had to be,
clearly,
yeah.
obviously, yeah.
It was something. And then, so at that point, I'm like coming up to like graduate. And by the time I'm start like getting ready to graduate, I start like dabbling with pills. Again, same as like the booze. It was like on the weekends or once in a while.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't getting them all the time. And it was like fun, right?
Were you still with the same guy?
Yes.
Was he in the same shit?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but he dabbled more than I did, but I didn't know that at the time. So like he would give it to me every now and again. But then eventually got to point, by the time I think after I graduated, I truly don't remember. Like they talk about this line that you cross in the sand, right? Like where you just don't know that point where you went from it being fun to being recreational to like being this point where like it was just an everyday thing.
First
and I had
person
to
to call
do
that
something.
out. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like
it's true. I can think of that.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened. Like all of a sudden, I remember
there are these turning points that are unrealized at the time.
Yep.
You know, they're so imperceptible.
Cunning, baffling, and powerful.
Yeah, and we're drinking and using one day at a time too, so we forget shit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, before we know it, we're like, "Holy shit, how did I get here?" You know.
And that's exactly how it was. I just woke up one day sick, and I
Yeah.
thought I had the flu. I think I had to been like So I graduated when I was 17. I had only been like 17 or 18. I think it was shortly after high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I just woke up and I thought I had the flu, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to take anything today. I don't think I realized how much I was taking it every day. And then I told my boyfriend at the time, like, hey, I think I have the flu. And he's like, oh, did you take anything today? And I was like, no. He's like, oh, you just got to take something.
Yeah,
You're
right,
withdrawing.
You're a little dope sick.
Yeah. And I
Oh,
was like, and I
shit.
didn't know what withdrawing was.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's withdrawing? And he explained it to
Were
me.
you mortified?
No.
Oh, really?
My
Like,
thought,
okay.
No, my literal thought was like,
There's a solution.
yes. Exactly. I was like, okay, so you're just telling me I just have to take more of these substances and I
meds.
won't feel sick. So that's what I'll do. It wasn't like, oh, this is a problem. I shouldn't be doing this. That literally never crossed
Right.
my
Plus,
mind.
you don't know it's progressive at the time,
No.
right? Now I'm thinking about it.
Nope.
So what does happen?
So after that, so this is where it gets like blurry and fuzzy. So from when I was like, so right before I graduated, so maybe like 16-ish till about 21, it's like just full force forward. Like at that point, right, I know I have to take something every day, like opiates-wise, to be able to feel okay.
You working?
I'm still drinking, can't hold a job. Can't hold a job. Get my first job when I was 16. I got fired by the time I was like 2 months into the job. And then tried to get another job. Again, I just couldn't hold it because I wouldn't show up. Like I didn't know how to be
Sure.
responsible.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea how to do any of
So
those
you didn't.
things.
You left high school. You didn't go to college or
Nope.
anything like that.
I didn't want to go to school.
Yeah.
I was like super against college. I was super against school in general. I was like, well, what's the point of school? Blah, blah. You know, I just had all these ideas
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I
of
thought I knew
course.
everything.
Yeah, of
and
course.
Right. You're a rebellious youth. Mm-hmm. So, are you still living with your parents?
So when I was 16, I moved out. 16 or 17. I think right after high school, so 17. Moved in with a boyfriend.
Okay.
He lived with his grandmother, and she ended up passing away shortly after I moved in. So then the house was just kind of ours. It was a trailer. So by
Bad
time,
scene, huh?
by time I was like 19, the trailer, like, I'll paint an image for you. So it was a trailer that had literal holes in the ceiling, like above where the bathroom was. We didn't have heat because we couldn't afford to pay for propane. We only had electric because his uncle who lived next door literally came out when the NIMO guy came to shut it off because his grandmother passed away. So they were coming to shut it off, and he pulled a shotgun on him and told him if he came back that he was going to shoot him. So they never came back to shut it off. So that's
Okay.
the only reason we had electricity.
Yeah. Shit. So your life is becoming unmanageable pretty quickly, but you're both not thinking. Well, it's a result of our drug and alcohol use.
No.
That's what it is.
Yeah, no, I didn't even. That
You got
was
shelter.
like never a thought that crossed
Yeah.
my mind.
Well, we have a lot of people that come on the podcast that lived out in the woods and lean-tos and all sorts of
yeah.
stuff, you know. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not that uncommon. So does your drug use and your alcohol consumption increase?
Yep, slowly increases. Like I said, from high school on, I definitely, I was still partying, still hanging out with the same friends, also taking the opiates, doing all that. But eventually, again, where it crossed that line, I don't know, but it turned into complete isolation. By the time I was 19 or 20, it was just living in that trailer. Like I literally wouldn't leave for like weeks on end. Like I would stay there, and the boyfriend
Why?
at the time, I think this goes back to my childhood and the reason I started drinking and using in the first place. I felt so uncomfortable in the world. Like so uncomfortable around other people. I couldn't even have like conversations with people. Like I was just so consumed with like self. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was so worried about what others thought of me, like all these things. So by this time, like now that I'm like using these substances, my friends aren't. They're still drinking, right? They're still doing that whole deal. And
Are
at
they
this
in
point,
contact with you at all? Or just-
people are trying to be.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't answer my phone.
They're all worried about
So
you.
you were getting pretty low
Yep.
emotionally
Yep.
and psychologically.
Yep. And I'd go out and like party and still and do that, but like it got to a point where I just stopped.
When you're by yourself, it's hard to even get out of that, right? Because that's
Especially-
all you can think about. It just plays over and over and over again. And it's just so debilitating.
Yep. Especially when you have somewhere like they talk about misery loves company.
Yeah.
Had someone there with me, so I was like, oh, it's
It
fine.
was enabling that.
Yeah. And he's going out and getting
Yeah,
whatever he
he'd
needs
go
to
out, get what he needs to get, bring it back. Again, like he was working. I was like in and out of a job. But like literally there were times where we'd walk around and like pick up cans to like collect money to be able to get what
Do you
we
think he
needed to
liked you
get.
there?
Do you think he what?
Do you think he liked you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think we both did. I think we both like fed off each other. And
Okay.
it was,
Yeah, I was just
it wasn't
curious.
even like I knew the last like 4 years of we were together from when I was like 15 or 16 till I was 21 till I went to treatment the first time. And I knew I wasn't in love with him. I knew I didn't want to be with him for the last 4 years of our relationship, but it was comfortable.
Where else you going?
Yeah.
Right.
So obviously there came a time that something happened, right, that made you kind of leave the situation.
Yeah.
What was that?
Well, so the first time I even realized I had a problem, I was sick, and he went to go get stuff, and I remember crying and being in a place where I was I don't want to do this anymore, and I felt like garbage. I was like, I can't do this, whatever. And then he comes back and brings it back, and I do it, and I automatically feel better, right? And so when I felt better, I was like, oh, what was I crying about? No, this is just my life. I'm going to have to use substances every day to be okay. I'm going to be with this person. A lot of people get to that and
they're just like, that's it.
I'm going to be with this person for the rest of my life. This is my life. And I truly believe in that moment, I accepted it and I just continued on. But then it got to the point where I couldn't do that anymore.
So at this point, is it heroin? Or
no.
Still the opiate
No, it's still
pills?
opiates. It's pills.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just pills. It's just, again, super expensive even at that time.
Oh, God, yes.
But yeah, it was just mainly the pills. And then, again, fast forward 21, what ended up happening, I knew I had a problem. Didn't know what to do about it. Didn't know anything about AA. Didn't know anything about treatment. Heard about it. Made jokes about it. But didn't know anything about it. But luckily, my aunt lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and she worked at a treatment center.
Oh, wow.
So she called me and said she had a dream that I overdosed and died. She's like, I'm worried that you're going to die. She's like, I can get you a scholarship to come here for free at the facility I work at. She's like, but you got to tell me now because I'm going to book the flight right now. And I was bawling my eyes out, and I was like, I don't want to go. In my head, I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And I opened my mouth to say no, and what came out was yes.
Damn.
Literally.
There was something in you.
Meant to say no, and it came out yes. As soon as I said yes, I was like, wait. And she was like, click.
Oh, shit.
That's all she needed.
So who got you to the airport?
Oh, my dad did.
So
Wow.
was she in contact with your parents at this time?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I would assume, because I wasn't talking to my parents. Again, I was completely isolated. I had a phone, but I would ignore it.
Yeah.
And I was just so selfish. There were plenty of times my mom got a call to people telling her that I died, or my uncle said that he seen me in a car wreck and I died, but it wasn't me. And I didn't answer the phone for 4 days.
So your dad comes to pick you up. You can still say, I'm not going.
Yeah, and I don't remember, because I knew I was going to treatment, right? Went all out. Mixing everything, benzos with the opiates and drinking and all the things. And then
So he comes to pick you up and you are fucked up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and then all I remember is getting to the airport and knowing I had a little bit of stuff left. So before I went through the security, I did everything. And I don't remember anything, and I just woke up at detox in Fort Lauderdale.
Did he go with you?
He walked me to the gate, I think.
Oh, you were on your own? Mm-hmm. So you get there and you're kind of just blacked out through it. Mm-hmm. And then you wake up, you're in detox.
In detox.
Is your aunt there?
No, my aunt wasn't there.
Do you know where you are?
Yeah, I knew where I was.
Okay.
I knew I was
All
in
right.
treatment.
Okay.
I knew I was in treatment. I knew what I was doing. I just don't remember getting there.
Was there any sense of relief?
Honestly, not that I can remember. I don't, because I was detoxing too, so I felt like garbage. And I just remember feeling like shit, and I remember knowing I was in another state, so I couldn't just leave. And I didn't really start feeling better until the end of my inpatient stay. So I did detox for 5 days, and then I went to inpatient. And in inpatient, I was still detoxing for the first 2 weeks.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. And but then after those 2 weeks, I started to feel better. And then I just remember when I got out of inpatient, that's when I really felt better.
Right.
I just remember driving one day and being like, oh, this is what it's like to be sober. This feels good, And and I remember enjoying that. And then I got introduced to meetings at that point when I was down there. They were 12-step based.
Yeah. Did you, so you were attending meetings before you even left the rehab?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd bring us.
So when you get out of the rehab, did they offer you a extended stay of some kind?
Nope, they just did outpatient.
Okay, but you lived down there? Did you
Yeah,
live with your
I
aunt?
lived with my aunt. Yep.
Oh, nice. So
I
you
lived
got
with my
a
aunt.
professional
Yes.
guardrail.
Yes.
And is she encouraging you the entire time
Yes.
and kind
Yep.
of keeping
And
an eye on you?
She was the one driving me to and from meetings. She was taking care of me. She was paying for everything.
Was she sober too or no?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, she is? Okay.
At that point, I think she had 10 years or 9 years.
Wow, that's
or
fantastic.
Something around
What
there.
a blessing, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
So how long did you stay down there?
So I stayed down there for 7 months. I was sober for 3. and I went back out after 3 months because I was going to meetings. I didn't know anything about meetings. And you know how they talk about 90 and 90?
Yeah.
So what I heard was you go to 90 meetings and you graduate like
Oh, you're cured.
outpatient.
Of course.
I'll hear what I want to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So you're living with her still, but you went out.
Yep, I ended up going out. But so I lived with her. Her roommate was like disabled, and then they had a guy come in who was taking care of him, and he said that I was getting high. At that point, I wasn't. But she was like, well, you need to leave because, you know, we have him here and I'd help take care of him and all these things. So I moved out again, got into a relationship. So moved in with the boyfriend
How
time.
did you meet this person?
In rehab.
Oh,
Literally
shit.
in inpatient.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, like.
So he went out too.
Everybody's
yeah.
getting their feels out, and everybody's feeling good about each other. And
Yeah. Well, I think I went from being in a long-term relationship. Like, again, another thing I think I realized over my lifespan is, like, I just want to feel better. I don't like feeling how I feel, right? Especially when I'm not on substances.
yeah.
Right. That makes
so
sense.
it was more,
It really does.
Yeah, it was more to just, like,
And
fill
when you're
the void.
alone, you don't want to be alone.
So that is the most natural thing in the world,
course.
and that's what makes it so tough to beat, right?
That's
So
an instinct gone awry.
Yeah. So you live with this guy. You start using again. Are you using opiates again?
Yeah, well, no. So I don't go back to opiates. I start taking benzos because in my mind, I can't go back to opiates. But I still had in my mind, I can still drink because I'm not an alcoholic, you know, and I can use these other things because it was really just the opiates, even though I drank alcoholically since the first time I drank. But, like, I convinced myself otherwise. And I remember being in inpatient, and the guy was like, you know, if you came here and you're here for, like, opiates or anything besides booze, he's like, I'm telling you, you cannot drink again. And in my gut, I was like, you're right. But my head was like, you're wrong.
You know what?
Right.
You know
Because
Matt.
he was telling
Matt
you.
Y, right?
Yeah,
He was our first guest ever. He had the same experience. He went to rehab for opiates, got out, said, well, I can drink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then he had to go back years later for
Well, then it's more socially acceptable, too.
Yeah,
so, of course,
it
nobody's
is.
going to be
It's in
really
your
paying
face,
attention
sure.
as much. And
Yeah.
Yeah, plus the first few times you do it, you're like, see, I'm fine.
That's right.
You know. So you're living with this guy down in Florida, and you're using again. Your aunt's out of your life at this point, or is she still?
She's like checking in. She's still helping me out. You know what I mean? Like
You
if
still
I needed
attending
food.
meetings?
No, I did 90 and 90, and I thought I graduated.
Okay.
So you
I
actually
truly,
did that.
yeah.
Well, there's proof that you can't just go to meetings.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
So at that point, did you feel like, I tried AA, it doesn't work for me?
No, I actually opposite. Like I don't remember much of what people said at the meetings. I just remember this feeling I got when I was there. Like I just remember like seeing people happy, like genuinely happy. And there was just something, you know, they talk about like attraction rather than promotion. It definitely attracted me.
Yeah.
But what I heard was you go 90 meetings and you're done, you know? So like that's what I did. And then, but I also, again, I thought I could figure it out. Like, I'll figure it out. You guys say you did all these things, but I can do it because of blah, 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 like whatever,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So, yeah, I started using the benzos, and then I do that for a couple months, and maybe like a month. And then I end up detoxing off the benzos because I was doing them like, it was 3 months. Never mind. It was 3 months because I left around 7 months. That was, yep. And I don't remember much of those 3 months again. And I just remember being at this point, we got kicked out of our apartment because we couldn't pay for it. And then we ended up staying in a hotel that his parents put us in. And I detoxed there. And how I detoxed from it was drinking.
Oh.
I'm like, I can't do this. I'll just drink
Gets
through
rid of
it.
it.
So
Yeah,
you stopped taking benzos.
Yep, and then start drinking.
Start drinking again.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens from there?
From there, like I'm in a lot of pain, just like the first time that I came in to treatment. Like I was, I again was isolating. I didn't have any friends. I didn't really talk to anybody. I didn't want to be with the person I was with, but I also like didn't know what else to do. I was in Florida. I didn't know how to get home. And I was just in a lot of pain. And then so I called my dad and I asked him if he'd fly me home. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I know where to get the good shit. at
Yeah.
home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like was my thought. But I'm like, I got to get away from this guy. Then this guy pleads with me to not leave him and for me to bring him with me. And like, so one of the big things that came out of my fifth step was people pleasing and being afraid of hurting other people's feelings.
Yeah.
I brought him with me because I was afraid to hurt him.
Did he pay for his own
Yeah,
ticket?
yeah. His parents did.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
does your dad know
Yeah,
the
he knew.
situation? Does he know you're both using?
That time, no, I don't think he
Okay.
did.
So
No.
you fly up here, you stay together, you move in together.
Did
Yeah,
you
we
introduce
moved
him
in.
to the good shit?
No, he actually introduced me to heroin because at this point I started doing heroin, and he used to. So then when we move up there, that's what we start doing. Yeah. And actually, well, no, okay. So that's a lie. That wasn't the first time I did it. I actually did it in Florida. I didn't remember this until I had 2 years sober this time. I thought the first time I did it was when I came back to back here. And then I remembered in my blackout stupor on the benzos that he had actually got heroin and told me it was crushed up benzos, but I knew it was heroin because it was brown, and I knew what it looked like, you know. And I did it anyways because I was like, man,
You're already
whatever.
there.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. And then again, same feeling like with the booze and with the opiate, like fell in love, right? And I'm like, all right, this is it. So then moved back. We move in together. His parents put us in an apartment. Again, his mom's paying for the whole apartment. And it was, again, same thing, like when I was living in the trailer. It was this isolation, didn't really hang out with anyone unless they were doing the same things I was doing. Again, I'm like drinking, but it's like not as heavy as it was when I was younger. It's definitely more so on like the opiate side because that was like what I wanted to spend my money on because like it was quicker, right? It was like I didn't have to do all these
Better
other
value.
things. Yeah.
Right, we're all about the value.
Yeah, the value.
So that's why everybody goes to heroin. It's about our value.
Yeah, I mean, geez.
So
Bang for the buck.
you're back here and you're kind of in the same spot again,
Same
right?
spot. I actually end up back in that same trailer.
No shit.
Come on.
Really?
Yeah. So I come back. I'm in this relationship with this guy. So I started doing the heroin. My ex, who I was with from when I was, 15, 16 till I was 21, he's also doing it. So we start hanging out with him. And then my one other friend is doing it. So
family.
we're all just hanging out doing it.
Oh, boy.
And so I was out that time for a year. So probably maybe the last 5 months of that year, I ended up moving back in with him and split up with the guy. And then...
Oh, so you moved back in with the
with
original.
my original ex, yes. So again, I can't be alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Constantly have someone
Yeah.
there. So I moved back in with him. So then I just remember waking up and being like, fuck, I'm back here again.
What was
you
that?
know what I mean? Fuck, I'm
Oh,
back
there we
here
go.
again.
I just wanted to make sure you heard that.
Is your father pulling his hair out at this point with you?
I think they both are. I think they're both super worried, but I'm not thinking about any of that.
No,
You're right,
hell
of
no.
course.
I honestly
I'm
truly...
fine.
Yeah, I honestly truly believe I only affected
I'm
myself.
fine.
So what happens?
So fast forward those last 5 months, it was just hell. I just remember again, getting to that point, between a rock and a hard place, I don't want to do this anymore. And also that experience I had going to meetings, I knew there was something different. And I also knew how I felt when I was sober, and I knew I liked it.
Yeah.
So there was that, but I still just didn't know how to do it. And not that I didn't know how to do it, but I guess I just didn't want to do it at the time.
Yeah. So you've had a taste of sobriety, and you remember that, and you're like, God, that was really
Man,
good.
that's going to take some work and
Yeah.
some...
And I didn't want to do the work.
Yeah.
So eventually it gets to the point where I'm sick, I don't have money, right? All the thing, I'm just struggling. Literally, it was a struggle every day. It was wake up, I don't have a job, so it's literally figuring out what to do that day, whether it's collecting cans,
Scavenging.
I used to go with Max, and he used to rob people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'd be like, oh, I didn't do that.
That's
I
right.
was just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
getaway
yeah,
driver.
yeah.
I
Right.
didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know what
whatever.
he's doing.
Yeah,
He always
exactly.
comes back with money.
Exactly.
It's magic.
So then, I end up, so after that, I end up getting in a lot of pain. I put myself back into detox, back when Krause used to take you for detox,
Okay.
for opiates and for alcohol. I show up there, my mom brings me, and I'm crying to the counselor, I need to get in. And this was at the point where they were changing it. They were getting rid of the 6th floor, I believe it was, at Krause detox, or at the hospital detox. And they end up, they're like, oh, we only take people who are detoxing from alcohol. And I'm bawling my eyes out. And he called over there, and they ended up taking me.
Okay.
Wow.
So I went there. I was there for 5 days. And I remember being there, just crying every day. I literally would sit in the shower, in the cold shower, and just sit there.
Now, are they
'cause I felt-
detoxing you with some kind of a taper?
No.
They're just cold
No.
turkey?
Yeah, because the
Oof.
only option that Krause had was methadone, and I used to take methadone and get high, so I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But they ended up, what they did give me was clonidine, which is blood pressure medicine,
Yep.
Right. Yeah, we've heard that before.
Yep.
and it made me feel suicidal.
Yeah.
It was
Really?
the only time in my life that I literally it made me feel better physically, but it brought me so down that I just didn't see the point in living, and I got really scared. So I told the nurse, I was like, I can't take this. Like, it just doesn't, I don't, I'm not feeling right on it. So they take that away. That's why they discharged me after 5 days, because they're like, you haven't been on medication for 2 days, so you're medically cleared.
And so you're
like,
out of danger at that point
Yeah.
from the. And so where do you go?
So I leave and I cop immediately.
Oh shit.
Yes. So I leave detox and I'm still physically withdrawing. So I go and I end up copping and I get high, and it didn't do what I wanted it to do. Like it took away the physical, right?
But it didn't work.
But it didn't get me high, right? It didn't get me out of myself. So I remember, like, I called my sister. I asked her for help at that point. She's also in sobriety, and she also goes to, like, the sister program. So she offers to bring me to a meeting. So then I start going with her, and then I end up looking on the schedule, and I just start going to meetings. And I end up at a group that was very structured and very strict, which is, like, what I needed at that time. And I do, like, the deal there, right? Like, I get a commitment, I get a sponsor, I'm talking to people, I'm going an hour early, staying an hour late, start to feel better. And then, like, someone had shared when I was early on, talked about, like, built-in forgetters, how we have built-in forgetters.
Oh, hell yeah.
And, like, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot. You know what I mean? And I forgot that these things that I was doing were the things that were keeping me in sobriety. So I stopped doing them because I'm like, well, I don't want to come this much. I don't want to be here this early. I don't want to stay this
too much.
late. You know what I mean?
I got this.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a
Yeah.
drag.
I'll be okay.
And meanwhile, this entire time I'm in this, like, it ends up being 7 months, I am trying to get my ex sober. I'm going to save him.
Oh, right, because you have all this.
Yeah, my original ex from when I was young,
But you're
right?
still, are you using it at this point?
No. At this point, I end up getting 7 months. But I'm, like, picking him up to bring him to meetings. I'm doing all that. And I remember my sponsor's like, he needs to find his own rides. He can talk to the guys here. And I'm like, no, he'll only come with me and blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, but you have a good sponsor who's telling you the truth,
Yes.
right?
Yep. So then, I don't know, then around like 5 or 6 months, I, like, kind of stopped buying into the program I was in at that time. And I started thinking that I could, like, figure it out on my own. And, like, I don't really have to do things these certain ways. And, like, to be fair, there were some things going on that I wasn't super fond of. But I also was like, well, I can go to these other meetings. I don't have to go to this one group.
Right.
Correct.
But I didn't. I was like, I just left. And then I picked up the ex one night, not planning to, like, go out and drink or get high or anything. And I picked him up because we were going to go to a different meeting, like, check out a different one. He gets in the car, and I was like, all right, let's go get some shit. And he's like, no.
man.
He's like, no. And I don't
said
know where.
no?
Yeah, he said no.
Wow.
He said, no, I'm not going to do that. You have 7 months. And I said, okay, get out because I'll find someone who will. And he's like, all right, let's go.
Oh, shit. Didn't take much then.
No,
huh?
it didn't take much. It did not.
So that's what you do?
Yeah, so that's what I do. I go out.
You're back again.
Yeah, and I relapsed on the stupidest thing. Well, I don't even remember what it was.
How
It was
old are you
something
at
that
this
wasn't
point?
anything. So at this point, I am 23. 23.
Yeah.
And then, so you fast forward, we go out. I'm only out this time for 3 months. I make it this time 3
You're
months.
getting shorter.
Yes.
So what? Now, so at the end of this 3 months, what happens? Like, what switch clicks in you?
Again, like, so throughout this whole 3 months, I was waking up crying every day because I told myself when I first did it, I'm only going to do it
toll.
today. I'm only going to do it today. I won't do it tomorrow because I don't want to get sick. And I couldn't control it. Like, I couldn't help myself. Like, I literally did it every day, all day. And I kept telling myself, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. And I couldn't.
So with the opiates, do you see the progressiveness of it?
Yes.
Just like alcohol, right?
Very much. Pretty much the
Right,
same.
the mechanisms are the same.
Yep. Because even, like, so that 3 months I was out, I went out and drank a few times. And the last time I drank, so, like, right, with the drugs, like, it got to a point where it wasn't working. Even when I was out for these 3 months, I was doing it, and it, again, wasn't doing what it used to do for me. It wasn't getting out of myself. It wasn't making me give me those feelings that I was chasing from back when I was 15, 16 years old.
They just weren't available to you
anymore. It just
anymore.
wasn't doing what it used to do. And then same thing happened with the booze. I went out one night, and I was drinking, and I remember seeing double. And I remember, I was on the verge of blacking out, and I just remember I could hear myself thinking. And I remember the thought that I had was, this isn't working, and then I blacked out. So I remember waking up the next day and being like, well, that don't work anymore either.
Now what?
Yeah. And I think I continued on for like another month or so, and again, got into some pain. Again, like literally every day I think I cried.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to stop.
Yeah.
So I finally, again.
The grasp on you was just too much.
Yeah.
So did you reach out?
I did. I ended up reaching out to go back into detox. It took them at that time, because this was 11 years ago, now you get a detox within 24 hours. Back then it took weeks.
Oh, shit. What do you do during that waiting period? Keep using?
Continue to get high.
Well, why not?
Holy Christ, that's dangerous. Shit. You say, look, I need help. Can I come in and detox? Can't take you for 3 weeks.
Yep, we'll call you.
Right, we hope you're alive when we give you a call.
Yep.
So you did remain alive, obviously, because you're
here.
here.
Yeah, right.
And
unless this is some
you
kind
go
of
back into
phantasm
detox.
that we're talking
Now,
about.
so this isn't your first rodeo. You go to detox. You're like, all right, here's what I got to do. You're telling them probably at this point, right?
Yeah.
So do you get to detox?
Yes, I go through detox, but I get kicked out of detox.
For what?
For smoking cigarettes in the bathroom. I was on
little ne'er-do-well.
I know. I was on day 6 or 7.
What?
Ne'er-do-well.
Oh, ne'er-do-well. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
I've never
little
heard.
ne'er-do-well. I'm old.
Oh, it's good. I'm
So
learning
you're
new.
smoking a cigarette, you get busted. They're like, you're done. You're out.
Yeah, because you signed an agreement when you get...
Oh, what bullshit.
Yeah. They don't do that anymore. It's
Yeah,
not
I
as
know,
strict,
but my
then
God,
it was, yeah.
After all this, you're just like...
Yeah, so I got booted to the curb, and I remember sitting on the curb outside of the facility.
Literally got booted to the curb.
Yep, literally sitting there with my bag. And the thought came in my head of I can go down to the west side and I can cop,
Of course.
or I can go to a meeting. Those are my two thoughts, like my two options, right?
So angel on one shoulder, devil on the other.
But even though I had those two thoughts, like I knew that going down and copping wasn't like an option. Like even though it came up, I like when the meeting like thought came up, I was like, nope, I'm gonna call my mom and ask her to bring me to a meeting.
Do you think part of that is because you knew it didn't work anymore?
Well, she had told herself that
Yeah, and I
on
think
that one occasion.
Yeah, and I think like we talk about like with the first step and stuff. I believe for me, like me going in and out for so long, like really instilled that first step in me that I was like powerless and my life is unmanageable, and I think I had to prove it to myself.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't think I was.
Uncommon. So
Thank God that little thing inside of us exists, right? It keeps telling us that. That's interesting.
Right,
to me.
and we're the lucky ones, and we
Yep.
are the few.
Oh, we are
We're
very
lucky
few.
enough to have that happen to us.
Yep.
So you go to the meeting.
Yep, I ended up going to a meeting, and I remember I was afraid to go to this meeting. Because I had it instilled in me that like this other place, the other meeting I was going to was the only place I could get sober.
Yeah.
And I believed it. So I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to go to these other meetings. And if it doesn't work, I'll go back there. Like I don't want to go back out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like beaten enough. And I go to this meeting, and literally like after the meeting, I was like, what was I so afraid of?
So the meeting was good.
You know,
So
meeting
must be
was
some
really good.
messages.
You
were
got some
let
hope
in.
there, huh?
Yeah.
You got some hope?
Yes, a lot of hope. And there was actually, I went to like there wasn't any like young people's meetings at that time where we are, but there was a lot of young people at that meeting, and that's where they went. So I kind of got in with them, and that kind of like attracted me again.
Yeah.
And I seen all these people like my age doing the same thing. I ended up getting a sponsor.
So the darkness is starting to be over.
Yeah.
Little by little.
Yeah, little
Still
by
struggling?
little. Still, so like, right, they talk about like the pink cloud or whatever. I don't know if that's necessarily what it was, but I definitely felt good coming in. I had the substances out of my system. I was feeling good. I'm going to meetings. I'm talking to people. But again, I still feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So uncomfortable.
Right, because that still exists
It
in
still
us.
exists.
Yeah.
It doesn't just go
But
away.
it's always the same thing. You take away the alcohol. If you don't change, you're either going to be miserable or you're going to go
But we're
back. You're going
faced
to use
with it,
again.
right? All of a sudden, it's there, glaring, right? And
Yep.
so that's where the step work comes in.
Yep, and that's where like that's what I wasn't doing. So like I was going to meetings and I was involved in going out to like coffee and going out to food,
The fellowship.
get food and stuff. And I really enjoyed it. But it got to the point around like 6 or 7 months where like I realized, because I hit another bottom, I realized I was still living the same way I was living when I was drinking and getting high.
Did something lifey hit you?
Yes. Yep. So like a lot of stuff happened. Actually, like my dad had a heart attack. I was again hopped into another relationship that ended horribly. And I was just feeling pretty much like, again, like another bottom. Like they talk about like the bottom falls out, right? And like this was like a bottom in sobriety that I didn't think was possible.
The pink cloud
Yeah.
was now black.
Yep. It was gone.
Does that push you towards the steps?
Yes, it does. So I mind you.
Yes!
Yes. So
Woohoo!
mind you, I had a sponsor, and she was great. But like I needed someone who was a little bit more firm with me, who could like call me out on my shit.
Okay.
So I ended up finding someone, and she ended up being exactly who I needed. And she introduced me, she starts reading through the book with me. We start talking about step work and going through the 12 and 12. And then that's where like the work begins. And I say begins, right? Because it's like ongoing, everything a process. And there's so much layers to it all, right?
Oh,
And I really thought the first time going through the steps, like in reading them, I was like, oh, well, I just do the steps and then like I'm done, right? like step 6 and 7. Oh, I get my character defects relieved and they're just gone.
They're gone.
Yeah, and then I'm just...
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
How was your experience with 2 and 3?
2 and 3. I had a hard time with 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Really hard time because I grew up, so I'm Native.
Right.
So I grew up and I remember people talking about prayer in the meetings.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm Native and we don't pray.
Right.
Like, this is what I believed in my, my head, right?
Yeah.
So then my sponsor was like, why don't you go and talk to someone on the nation about prayer? She's like, do you have anyone who's like, a clan mother or chief or anything you can talk to? I was like, yeah, my aunt. She's like, go talk to her then. I was like, oh, okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So I go and talk to her. Super uncomfortable, by the way. Like, I was like, I didn't know how to bring it up. I bring it up to her. And I'm like, yeah, they talk about this and this step and talk about prayer and higher power, and to me it sounds so like Jesus-y and all these things. She's like, Kels. She's like, we pray. What do you think we do in ceremonies? I was like,
right.
Oh. She's like, why do you think we do these certain things? She's like, we're talking to Creator. She's like, is this a conversation?
That's right.
And I was like, oh.
Oh, so it's a higher power of my choosing.
Yes, exactly.
So did you adopt that?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep, I did. So that's when I stopped fighting prayer.
Yeah.
And I started being like, oh, okay, we pray. And I pray. And it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, so I finally stopped fighting that and started adding prayer to my life and started doing like meditation, even though I could not do it for more than I couldn't sit still
Having
for more than a
conversation
minute.
with others besides yourself.
Yes, talking to other people.
Well, that is really the start of the psychic change. And without that, you really can't get there.
Mm-mm.
And I know a lot of people have trouble with that. It takes a while. If you keep coming back and keep at it, it will come. But a lot of people get
As
so
with anything you have to
discouraged so
practice.
quickly, they're like, screw this.
Yeah.
Which is very
because they
unfortunate.
look for the result immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember as a kid, if I prayed, I was going to get what I needed. Yeah, well.
You probably got exactly what you needed,
Yeah,
which
I
was
sure
not what you
did.
wanted.
Yeah, that's right.
I know. It happens to me all the time that I'll look back and I'll go, I did pray for that to happen.
Yeah.
Not like that.
Just not in
but-
this way.
Yes,
That's right.
exactly.
That's right.
So be careful what you pray for. They
Oh,
say,
yeah.
So you've been sober since, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
And you work with a lot of other people I know.
Yes.
You sponsor
I
people.
do.
You have your home group.
Yep.
Which
have
you're
my
very
home
active
group.
in the young people's.
Yep.
I was going to call it the young people's movement, but it really isn't a
For
movement.
God's sake.
It's this like the PA. The
YPA.
The YPA.
Yeah.
So you said you work with he said you work with a lot of people. And what does that do for you?
It does a lot, actually.
That's not good enough. I want details.
I'm going to give you
Holy
details. I'm going to give you details.
Yeah.
Good.
So, no, I was just thinking, when you were just talking about how, with the sponsees and sponsor people doing all that, it's ebbed and flowed. Because there's been, a chunk in my sobriety after I had my daughter that I really didn't do anything. COVID, I was going to online meetings once in a while. Start suffering from that.
That was a crappy time period.
Yeah, and then come back, and I really didn't start, really working with women until after COVID was when it really kicked in. And I seen the benefits before because even when I was newer, I would always go up to the newcomer and talk to them and ask to give them rides.
But COVID was forced isolation, right? So you weren't talking with people on that level.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, after COVID's over.
Yep. So then, so I start helping people and I don't know, for me, it just helps me get out of myself. A lot of other people share about, it helps me just not think about myself all the time and put somebody else before me and think about them and be helpful to them. And also gives me a purpose to know that I can be helpful, right? Especially growing up and feeling not a part of and all those things I talked about. Seeing that I have a purpose and have a worth, it definitely, it does something there.
Yeah, Brent and I were just talking before the podcast about how primary purpose is to stay sober and help another alcoholic. That if you don't have that second part of it, you're not going to progress.
Yeah.
You finish the steps, and then what? Well, then you start sharing the steps. And that's the second part of it.
Yeah.
And without that, I don't think you get the benefits of the full benefits of the program. And I know for me, I've been sober a while, and working with others is a lot of times for me, it's like a renewal of every step. And I see things I didn't see before. And I experience things through them that I always say this is kind of a cheat, but I experience their tough experiences without being on the hook for it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so...
and for me, it helps me it just shows me how grateful I am that I have it to give it, right?
Yep.
I mean, good Lord. Just the gratitude alone. I've dealt with that a lot recently.
Oh, yeah.
And so, as a person who has had that struggle, that long struggle, what suggestion would you give to a young woman who's in that trailer or whatever and desperate? What can you say to them?
I would probably tell them to reach out for help, to just make a start.
You can't do it alone.
Do something. Yeah, you can't do it alone.
And you're not alone. Yeah.
And, to just put one foot in front of the other. And honestly, the biggest thing I always say and have always said, because it's been my experience, is do all the things you don't want to do.
Right. If you come up against that in yourself, you know you're in the right place.
Yeah, because that's what my sobriety's been. It's been a lot of doing stuff I don't want to do, But it benefits me.
Yeah.
I don't know why I work against myself in that way sometimes.
I still have to do that.
Well, I don't want to end this podcast, but we are at the end of our time, so I have to.
Yes.
But it's been so great having you here with us.
Goodness.
And,
thanks for having me.
Love your story. And until next time on the Glum Lot Podcast, I'm Mark.
I am Brett.
And I'm Kelsey.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.